Today, we're going to be talking about the difference between giving your babies textures and swallows. Dear mommies, what matters to you, or what should matter to you the most, is the nutrient that your baby is taking. A lot of you want to start to introduce textures to your babies, and a lot of you also want to start to introduce swallows to your baby. Now the simple question is, at what age do you introduce swallows to your baby, and at what age do you introduce textures to your baby? The very first 6 months, you have to understand that we are also targeting toward eradication of infant poverty and malnutrition. And how do you liberate your child? How do you enrich your child? Giving your child all the nutrients that the child needs. In a situation where you were mixing infant formula and breast milk, you were still good to go. So by 4 months, depending on your child's current weight, you can transition into complementary feeding. That's what we call the starter package. Now, what do you want to give at that point? Some of you are already interested in, I gave my baby amala. As we are eating, I push small. As we are testing, I gave her to test. Please, is your baby a testing machine? Or are you using your baby for nutrition practical? You are transiting from the breast milk nutrients into a complementary nutrient. That means the child wants to start to take other sources of nutrients apart from infant formula or breast milk. Which one come with this texture of I'm testing amala? Does this look like testing ground for vehicles? No, mommy. At that time, you want to start to give slight textured foods, and those are smooth texture, 100% smooth textures, so that your babies can easily swallow them. Don't forget, they still have an immature digestive system, so they need foods that are easily digestible in texture. Not that you cook the rice come out very, very soft. Some of you have finished checking YouTube and internet, and then you start to see all sorts of unregulated menus, and then you just jump at it. Some of you even tell me that I bought the menu, but you have not paid for what you're watching, because mine is free, so you don't value it. It's okay. God will reward us. So you will be looking at the texture of the food that your baby wants to take. Must be smooth texture. Now, once your child starts to get to 7 months, you can begin what we call the Montessori ways of feeding. You want to start to introduce some more complex textures like noodles. You want to start to introduce noodles to them. You want to start to introduce finger biscuits so that they can learn to hold. They can learn to identify that something more textured is in their taste bud, and then they can learn to swallow something slightly more textured than the cereals they take, something more textured than the smoothie, than the yogurt that they take. Now, where does the swallow come in? The swallow can come in at about 10 months to 12 months, depending on the child's weight. And what do we mean by swallow? At that point, your baby should be able to hold, chew, swallow textures without feeling threatened, without getting choked. And that is when you can start to talk about giving them semi-solids. What are these semi-solids? We have cereals that are specially designed for babies that are the semi-solids. You need to check Babyology out for that. They call her Jagaban of baby food. And this is her right here with you. So you need to start to look at semi-solids. Now, where is the problem coming from? How did the problem start? I think it's about our culture. We want to start to introduce our children to our culture, not understanding that we should continuously give our children nutrients. Nutrition has nothing to do with your culture. It has slight limitations to do with your religion, because some religion limits you from eating certain foods. However, once you find yourself in that situation, halal, vegan, children have a substitute nutrient that they should take. So this issue of swallow, please, you people should drop this issue of swallow. And when you want to give your children swallow, when you are holding this swallow, you gotta ask one question. What is the nutritional value of what I'm about to give this child? When you notice that your child starts to have constant cold, cough, sepsis, that is low immune system, infection, low iron level, gastrointestinal issues, all of you just think it's normal. It is not normal. It is food related. What you invest is what you end up getting. And if your child does not carry loads of nutrients in his or her body, it's coming to playback. And this playback is when you notice that every single thing, even once your child starts school, cough, cold, catarrh, headache, sepsis, stooling, Gastrointestinal infection. There is nothing we will not start to hear. My baby's PCV is low. Doctor said I should go and increase the iron level. Iron level in what form? Iron level in what form? Folate or folic? We need to start to look at all of those things. You know, it's very, very important. The most important thing that you should consider once you want to start your baby on a complementary journey is the nutrient density of what your child is taking. Don't let anybody dissuade you or talk into your psyche that was what you ate 20 years ago. That's the way it used to be. Listen, global warming plays a very, very key role in our children's diet, even in our own diet as adults. And that is why you realize that even adults, a lot of their foods are also fortified now. Your semo, fortified. Your this, fortified. And even in agriculture, they have also started to look into biofortification because global warming has affected everything that we eat. The one where they pay me pass. That thing is so painful. When we are talking about food, do you know that mommies, when they are talking about food now, and they are talking about imported, or they'll tell you baby manufactured food, mommies will tell you, I can't give my baby. That thing is chemical. That thing is bottled. It's packed. It's not good. I want to go natural. The phone you are using is this by the same people. The injection you are taking in the hospital is by the same people. The drugs you are taking is by the same people. The clothes you are wearing, the shoes you are wearing, the car you are driving, it's easily acceptable that it has nothing to do with culture. You look at that into technology. But when we are talking about innovative nutrition, problem have started. Problem. Mothers don't want to accept that foods have also been advanced. A lot of food nutrients have also been improved and advanced. Now, let me just touch this department very, very quick, because I actually wanted to put it in the other episode. This issue of this food have artificial flavor is not nice. Listen, there are what we call the cofactors and the coenzyme nutrients. And on that episode, we're going to be talking about cofactor and coenzyme nutrients and why you need to avoid some certain types of food you call natural for your babies. On this note, textures and swallows should be properly explained. You detail it properly before you start to introduce your babies to swallow. If your baby is not age fit for swallows, please exercise some good patience. The same patience you endured during your 9 months of pregnancy can also be applied. Exercise some patience. There's always time for everything. But for now, within the first 1,000 days, ensure that all your baby is getting is good calories, good nutrients, good calcium, good iron, good phosphate, good lutein, DHA, probiotics, all of these nutrients are what you should put into consideration and ensure that your baby takes them back to back on a regular dose on a daily basis. And at that point, you will realize that you do not need supplement for your child. All you need to do is to give your baby textured foods that are highly loaded with nutrients. Now, before I go, I'm going to remember something. Once your baby gets into between 7 months and 8 months, you realize that the texture of your baby food changes slightly. It starts to become lumpy. The lumpy texture is very safe because automatically once it gets into water, it dissolves. I'm sure you must have seen some cereals that are slightly textured. It's just also introduce your baby to Montessori ways of learning by trying to chew and swallow safely and understanding that these things will not choke them. I'll see you on another episode. Don't forget to tell somebody to follow Babyology. We're sitting on a high attitude. And what do you need to know? You need all the information, and I'm right here to give it to you.
Let's raise our children right.